Hello, Rachel.
How are you?
Oh, Rachel, I am fanning myself right now because I got an abundance of gifts within the episode of the show we're discussing today. I just cannot wait to open them up and let everyone know what I got. What about yourself? How are you doing?
All right.
She said it. Everyone, she said, no, in all seriousness, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for asking.
Everyone, you now know Rachel's level. She's okay. She was saying she was all right. That was just for the British crowd out there to get them pumped. All right, governor. But we are both here to do our podcast, to do our show, and we are talking about a science fiction series in particular. That's what we like to do on yumyumpod, the only podcast brave enough to remind everyone about the Yum Yum moment from Star Trek Discovery, a moment in which a character known as Commander Nan D said a really absurd line of dialogue, and we like to just say that happened and give a rating system on every episode we cover via Yum Yum, and maybe even hone in on how that ridiculous moment was also very sexually charged. But Rachel, what show are we talking about?
The Expanse, which is a more recent sci-fi entry. And we're talking about season 3?
3, yeah, we're up to season 3, and
It feels weird. It still feels weird. It's new. It's new. Season 3 is still new.
it's still in the setting up stuff phase of the story, and we are new to The Expanse. We have never seen The Expanse before. This is...
That's I'm not confident that we're in season 3. It's like Babylon 5. I know it backwards and forwards, baby. We've been there. We've done that. But The Expanse is fresh to both of us. So we are full of speculation and very wary of spoilers.
We know it's season 3 at least. It has to be in one of the first 3 seasons because the Sci-Fi logo aggressively pops up every time we start an episode, and it hurts so much. And yes,
It would hurt less if it appeared like first and it was done, but it
waits till 7 minutes in.
and then it pounces on you.
It's a strike.
It's like you thought the credits were done. Nope. Here we are, fucker.
You thought you were enjoying a good scene? Guess what? It's by Sci-Fi. It's a Sci-Fi original. Fuck you, you bitch. And we are very wary of spoilers. This is our first time, and so we do not want you to spoil it for us. Enjoy our idiocy when it comes to The Expanse. The shortcomings to our ability to perceive the greatness here. Although I will pat myself on the back because I got a lot of predictions right within this episode. I said a few things that were going to be taking place. But I cannot believe, and we'll talk about it when we get into it more, but I cannot believe how they handled the Nauvoo situation. I'll just say it like that. But for all of those who are not in the know, we release this on our Patreon first. We have a Patreon, Yum Yum Podcast, and we have a lot of content over there, lots of bonus content, and we put this there for the patrons first, and then we eventually release it to the main feed. So if you are just starving to hear our thoughts on the rest of the season or even more of The Expanse, then you should head on over to our Patreon and support us there. Be a part of the group Discord where so much hijinks is happening on the Discord. We are just having a grand old time having conversations about previous episodes and the stuff that's been mentioned on the podcast, and characters from the first season, second season, now the third season, antagonists, protagonists, the arcs. Oh, it's such a grand old time. But Rachel, what episode are we talking about? Do you know? You're not even strong on
Reload.
What season. Oh, Reload. And do you know what number that is?
4?
We're up to the 4th episode of Season 3, Reload, which goes as such according to the IMDb summary. And Rachel, please hold in the anger. please hold it in because it goes as such. The Rocinante tends to wounded Martian soldiers in exchange for supplies. Avasarala struggles with how to disseminate a key piece of evidence despite being in hiding.
I don't appreciate that they're just ignoring the name change of the ship.
If you have an IMDb account, which we do, we can make our own summaries and make them accurate. If we are sick of inaccuracies on IMDb, we have the power to change them as well as thumbnails. I can change the thumbnails to what I want.
Yeah, but we don't want to do that ahead of time because we don't want the spoilers.
Of course not.
That are in the synopsis. So we
can do it after. After this episode, maybe I'll go on there and write a special summary and see if it slips through.
Our engineer calls this stuff red kibble. A little bit spicy, but damn.
Belter food.
What were the spicy seconds in this timeline of this episode?
What made me pull at my collar and say, oh boy, things are getting a little bit steamy on this show.
Avasarala's new outfit?
That was an amazing outfit. It was very alluring.
She refers to it as the skin of her enemy.
That you mentioned that line, and that is going to have to lock it in, but I will say what my candidate was before you reference that line, because I had a different candidate.
I didn't realize I didn't have...
Yeah, you shook me to my core with that. It was a great argument made and a correct one to be made.
Okay.
How could I not even think about the skin? No, I was going to say Ehrenreich is so fucking horny about how good of a job he's doing fucking over this blonde-haired Reverend Doctor.
He is, seconds away from literally stroking himself.
When he is drinking that scotch when she leaves and when she's bickering with the Secretary General and he's just drinking a scotch, and Sean Doyle does this thing where he's grinning without even cracking a smile. Like his lips don't move. Yeah, it's all, and the cheeks as well. There's something happening in those cheeks. He just... The way I would describe his face, Ehrenreich in particular, because Sean Doyle, I've seen him in other things, he's very expressive as an actor, but in his face with Ehrenreich, it's almost like a robot in a way. Like he could play a great android in something, I reckon. Like he could have been a silicate in Space Above and Beyond, but there's just something artificial about Ehrenreich because he's a guy that doesn't really have emotions. He kind of puts them on for how he needs because he's so much a political chess game man.
Performer.
He's a performative person. Now, Rachel, do you have a regular selection for this?
Avasarala in the
outfit?
Yeah.
In the racer outfit?
Yeah, in the racer outfit. And particularly that line.
And why do we say regular selection?
Because I have to have an automatic Amos pick because I'm obsessed, and otherwise I only pick his moments. And you got tired of that.
It tested the marriage that Rachel was always picking the ship's beefcake and not acknowledging that she's only picking him. So why don't we just acknowledge it? Why don't we just get it out in the open? Because when I say acknowledge, I should also say you are not expanding your scope to other characters.
Yes, that was more the problem. I fully admitted that this was my favorite.
So for the sanctity of our marriage and the safety of it as well, could you please tell me what was your Amos moment?
I'm going to go with, shit, did I miss it?
I knew that was going to be your pick. I am not a part of it, but on a group Discord, they're making a betting pool of what the moments will be. And since I'm aware it exists, I have not seen what they're selecting. I am also thinking about it. And my own pick, if people are making bets on what my automatic Amos pick is, I really like the exchange they had about how this is a stolen ship, and he just is like, not anymore. It's ours now. It's ours now, bitch.
Like, it's not Mars. It doesn't belong to Mars.
It's mine. Mm-hmm. It's mine. And then he smacked his big muscles and said, it's mine. Now,
Hey, Holden got a good amount of flexing in this episode as well.
He got a lot happening. Reload, episode 4 of season 3. I thought this episode was fairly good. It had a very lethargic pace to it, and I don't mean that as a criticism, but I rather enjoyed it. There was a lot happening in there, but it didn't feel as frantic.
What was the flavor of the week last episode? It's different. It's very different.
The pacing is very methodical. It isn't as fast-paced. It isn't as frantic. It isn't as overwhelming. That is set up in the beginning with the slow taking back of the Nauvoo. It's very, very, very
methodical.
intentional about every move they're making, every choice they have. And I apply that to, it's measured. This is a very measured episode, even-handed, and I liked that about it. And although I didn't love this as much as the previous one, didn't wow me as much, I was very thankful for it being the follow-up to that one, because this is a break between what is going to be some big peaks, I feel.
It would have been too much if it tried to escalate further from last week's episode.
I also am a big appreciator of how this does some character work for some of the crew or some of the people that I'm not as invested in, but they're making me more so. That is mainly in relation to Alex and Bobby. They're not my favorite characters, but I like that they were given their moments to shine. And same with Naomi too.
Martians got their time in the sun. It does have that sense of feeling a little bit of a drop from the last episode, but I came to really appreciate the change in pacing and perspective. It's not as jam-packed, and it is that little bit of, it's letting you catch your breath before it ramps up again.
I really did feel the epic weight of that opening, of the cold open, I guess, of the belters of the OPA taking back the Nauvoo. It was very grand, and the Expanse is very exceptional when it comes to its visuals. It's very stylish, very cinematic, but this, for one that isn't an action set piece or anything like that, I felt as if I was watching a sci-fi epic that I would see on the big screen, let alone on the small screen. And it was just a bunch of people flying on over and welding their way through a thing and dropping in. But they put so much effort into it. There was all of these drones and the lights and how everything was moving around. And look, there's a body over there in a later sequence. There's just lots of little touches in, I guess, the CGI and the effects and how space works in this episode that really kept building on top of itself without being, look at me, all over the place. This isn't arrogant when it comes to this. The Nauvoo, it's back for one scene.
Yep. We just picking that thread up for a second to make sure that it's ready for whatever's coming later. It's just like, it hasn't left. It's staying there. We're gonna touch base with it, but just a little bit, just a little bit.
How do you feel about that?
I like it. It's fine.
I'm fine with this too being just a reminder. I hope that they do pick it up more fully soon rather than do a Bobby last season where you go 4 episodes without anything more and then suddenly it's progressed. Or like they did with the
learned from that mistake.
I hope it's not like the rock hopper kid where it's like we left him in a really precarious situation, then we came back and he was like, oh yeah, he just got found and it all worked out. Yeah, it's just fine now. I loved the details of what the inside of the Nauvoo looked like.
The murals.
They have murals. Of course they have murals. Of course they do. It's a religious ship.
Yeah.
Heck, even the interior design of it before they jump into that point has a very
ethereal
church-like atmosphere to it.
Yeah, it is clearly reminiscent of Mormon temples on Earth.
they don't go too far with it. It still looks like a sci-fi tin can spaceship, but there's just certain angles, certain colors, just the sheen of it. It's the most expensive looking ship we see in the show, and we only ever see glimpses of it.
The luxury of empty space, which is not what we've seen anywhere else.
Unless it's a dead ship that they've come across and that's it. But this is not lived in. It's not had anyone occupy it.
Like, it is designed to have these open spaces.
Because this is an ark, and it needs to contain the people.
We have secured the nozzle. We'll begin retrofit immediately.
Mao is still progressing in the story and flip-flopping in having a heart.
Yeah, and he does and he doesn't. Because he pulled the plug because he thought that it wasn't going to work, and then Strickland went ahead anyway and has proved him wrong. So now he's back on board because, well, it looks like it's going to work now, so we're going to keep going.
Well, last episode he tried to justify it more on a morality level than just it isn't working.
Yeah.
It was also, we don't know how it works and we'll never know, and even if we do figure out our way, it will find a way to strike back. Like, he had all of these fairly good justifications.
And now he's not listening to himself, and it's just like, well, I really hope this bites you in the fucking ass, you Wango.
Strickland is a piece of shit, isn't he?
Oh, yes!
He is a worm.
Oh, that reveal of like how calm he is while looking at a child play with a disassembled body is just...
Well, what's interesting is he seemed a little bit more horrified than Mao. Mao was overjoyed. He was like, oh my God, this is horrible. But then he was like, oh, we can use this.
And then he's like, oh, get May out of here.
Okay, let's use this. Oh yeah, May, get out of here. By the way, get out, you little child. His relationship with May also changed in this.
Yeah.
He saw her as a vulnerable little girl who was afraid and upset. She was kicking the nurses. He found that funny. He was like, yes, this reminds me of how rambunctious Julie probably was, or my other daughter. And then also he had the harsh reminder that this is not his daughter. This is someone else's daughter.
Yeah, I feel like that was the straw for him. Like, oh, yeah, you have another dad. You want your dad back. I can't just replace my daughter because you don't want that.
She wants to see her friend as well, which he cannot allow because the friend, I think in his mind, should be dead or put down or
dead,
disposed of, but he isn't, is he?
Nope. He's busy pulling apart the body.
Well, yeah, they escalate the program on him.
Yeah. But they had that where it was just like, oh, okay, I think was it end of last episode maybe where we checked in on him and Strickland's like, okay, we're gonna stop the doses. You've had enough medicine now.
Mm-hmm.
And we get his perspective, and it's all blue.
I think so. I think that was this episode because he had a seizure last episode and that was the end of it. And then this episode, Strickland is like, well, I'm still working on you and we're going to give you the last dose now.
Yeah.
And the kid is changed not only physically, but he is almost...
He's like not human anymore. He's more connected to the proto-molecule than humanity.
He comes across as a computer program.
Mm-hmm.
The way he talks is almost like the ship's computer running a diagnostic rather than an rather than an alien life form even. And would this be the closest to either we see a personified version of the proto-molecule or a personified version of whatever Strickland / Mao's way of controlling the hybrids are? Because the other hybrids we never got to hear them talk.
No.
They were just monsters running around.
Yeah, they'd lost that.
And this kid is still a child. We can still see the physical form what did you get out of, before the big disassembly moment that we end this on, what did you think about how they are using the proto-molecule and what it means overall?
Deeply unsettling, because it is so true to life that would be what happens. Like, that feels realistic. It rings true, which makes it more terrifying.
And with how this child has changed, the way he's speaking, and obviously what he does at the end, which is he's killed someone and he's
as soon as they
disassembled them.
reminded us about the nurse, as soon as May was like, I know he's in there, the nurse went in there. I was like, oh, she dead.
I thought it was a guy that's body was there because I thought there was a beard. There was too much dismembered bits for me to really tell it all apart.
I'll correct it. They dead.
They dead. But what do you get out of how the show is presenting this change?
A very interesting evolution, and it makes me even more interested in what level of threat is Venus, what's happening on Venus.
And what Mao could bring further with the hybrid program too.
How little control does he actually have over this little boy?
He has so much fucking ego and pride, and he's just this insane capitalist asshole.
The hubris.
The sheer fucking hubris. Yeah, the sheer fucking hubris of it all. I adore how Mao is this man who wants to be good and have a heart, but also he doesn't give a fuck about it, because last episode he wanted to be a good person. He's like, okay, I've reached my limit. I've done it. I'm pulling the plug. I'm a good man. But then as soon as he's given the opportunity to seize more power, he's going to just do that and do heinous things. And he's too blind to see the shortcomings of it. So he looks at a little boy who has killed someone and is ripping apart their body and putting it back together again in horrifying ways. And he looks at it as an opportunity for greatness.
He looks at it in awe and really goes, awesome.
This is awesome. But he's too blind to see that the child is still in there.
Yeah.
They're scared. They don't know what's going on. They regret their choices. And then they get turned off, and whatever is in charge now turns back on and is running this calculations and figuring it all out. And that's the real damning thing is they want to control this proto-molecule. They want this to be something that they can put
this
into...
This child is not going to manage to be your remote control for the proto-molecule.
They're forgetting about the autonomy of others, which is how this series operates when it comes to the higher up people, whether it's Aaron Wright or Mao. They think that they can play these grand games of conquest, politics, power, and underestimate the free will of the people that get trodden on to get those things.
Well, it's not even underestimating, it's undervaluing.
That's a perfect way to put it. And they're just children. They're expendable now. Some of them didn't make it. Well,
I had to specify the surviving children.
So prep the other kids, get May ready to go, because we are going to go along this train and do the program again. We're back up and running. We were going to
get out of here, and now we're doubling down.
When the Agatha King comes, we are going to give them so much joy of crazy bullshit. And
yeah, I do wonder how far away that's gonna be, because we know that it's an imminent threat to Mao, that the ship is on its way.
We'll be ready to turn over the whole system once the Agatha King arrives.
I want all the data cores and backups on my shuttle.
Of course.
And prep the children for travel. They'll all be coming with me.
Sir, I'm afraid that not all of the children survived.
You know, I need to specify surviving children.
Obviously, the Rocinante is making its way to Io as well, but They need fuel, they need resources, they need ammunition, they need all of this stuff because they just chewed through it all in that battle they just had to save our Martian friend and obviously Christian as well. And they have to come up with a solution to the problem.
And they go grave robbing.
It's a nice way to tie the opening into the show where you have the Belters basically grave robbing in their own sense of that, where they are taking the Nauvoo, this holy ritualistic place that is an icon of a group of people. It is a symbol of faith, and they are going to take it and pervert it for something else. And now we have our crew at the former Rocinante having to dig through the remains of Martians that have been killed in a war that isn't necessary.
Cracks throwing that body and it even surprising Amos.
Oh, I have a whole fucking note about that moment. That was wild. That was a wild scene. They're having to rob the dead, and who has a problem with this? Who has a problem with them robbing Martians of their possessions, even if they're dead? It's Alex, of course.
Yeah. Bobby gets over it faster than Alex does.
Alex is helping her to get to that point, though, is the thing. But she does manage to, on an emotional level, come to terms with it. Well, Alex, this shakes him to the core for the runtime, as do the rest of the things that unfold. But
thus he is more trying, like, he's still struggling with his identity as a Martian more than Bobby is. And we see that in the other plot that we'll get to as well. But the fact that he is just like, he wants to do the right thing.
His version of the right thing is so married to patriotism.
Yes.
He's having an identity problem in general, a crisis of identity.
Like, he wants to protect Mars, these bodies, these representation of his people, but also his current family as well.
Yeah, he has to compromise one or the other. His Martian pride, his soldier pride, or what he is a part of now. And he is a character that we have had issues with because he's very aimless. He does not have a greatly defined arc or purpose outside of being the guy who drives the ship.
Yeah.
But season 3 is changing that by making it the point that Alex doesn't know who he is and what he stands for. And when he is given the opportunity, it's a flip of the coin if he will do the right thing or not, because he fucked over his family, because he wanted to be a space cowboy. Now he's being a space cowboy, and a part of that is getting your hands dirty, getting your hands covered with blood even, and he doesn't like that. So he wants to flip back to being a proud Martian soldier. But when confronted with that, I'm just a citizen, I'm just a civilian, I'm not a soldier anymore. He can't commit.
Always put that on. Thus he still wears the touchy jumpsuit.
He has no ability to commit to one thing or the other so strongly that it can help guide him.
Grass is always greener.
That's the difference between Bobby and Alex. Although both of them feel conflicted about being proud Martians on this ship, Bobby knows where she stands with that in comparison to Alex, who doesn't know where he stands with that.
She is able to articulate it.
Hence, she is the one that is able to help win the day because she has come to terms with her relationship to her people, to her group, to her patriotism. Alex, he cannot come to terms with really anything other than trying to stop people from making the same mistakes he has made. He's aware enough of himself to see himself in others. Hence, he's really connecting to people like Bobby, to people like Naomi, even to people like Holden. They have made similar choices to things that he has done over the course of the show, and it upsets him enough in which he vocalizes it or tries to act out ways to help them. But like with the many great characters who can give good advice to others, they can't apply it to themselves. And we've been harsh on Alex, but now that we're getting material to talk about with him, how are you with the character currently? Like, what did this episode do for you in relation to him?
I can't really dig into that unless we dig into the Martians that they bring on board.
So they go on one of these ships. Holden feels vibrations and realizes that there's an SOS because some people have managed to survive.
Yeah.
Lock themselves away and just
we find out
squeak on
thanks
by.
to the commanding officer sealing them in.
He sacrificed himself to save them and they didn't even realize it. So they find some Martian soldiers on this ship, bring them in, do their part as just good people to save them.
Yeah.
They're not just
humanitarians.
They're not just going to do the cold, logical, practical thing of, fuck them, we're here to do our thing. They're not looking out for themselves.
Leave them to die. Alex tries to befriend them. He tries to play Martian and be your buddy and be one of them. And he lets his guard down and it fucks him over.
He deserves
it. Yes, 100%. And it's funny because it's just like, we were like, oh, come on, like, give something to Alex. And now it's just, Alex is a piece of trash and he deserves fucking nothing.
He's the punching bag of the show.
It's just like him and the message with his wife and now this.
Naomi's the only redeeming quality to his character because he treats her nicely and he's helping make her come back to be a member of the crew because of that. But he himself is just someone to shit on. I find it peculiar, but not bad, that the Martian to criticize his Martianhood, if we can use that, is a random character we've never met before. Bobby just came into the crew and she's pissed on him once and then that's it. But they've bonded about where they are at because they're Martian misfits. But we have one of these Martian soldiers, two of them really, go at him about how he just is using these justifications not to actually be helpful to Mars.
Yeah.
You're not a civilian. There are no civilians anymore that we're at war. You should be back in with us. And why are you helping the enemy? The enemy is anyone who's not us. You know that. You're supposed to be that way, and you're wearing a uniform of a ship you weren't a part of. That isn't right. You're pretending and playing to be a Martian, and
you're playing soldier. You're playing up these ideals and not living them, and that really hurts Alex.
You need outsiders to say these things to him with how the balance is, because Bobby cannot rightfully get up in his face about those things because she's no longer a loyal Martian. She's out of that.
Yeah,
she's doing her own
she's
thing.
out of that, and also she needs their help.
It's always a fun thing, even in a serialized show like this, in which guest characters can have a journey and a change of their own, as well as impact our characters. Like, they themselves as characters change.
Yeah.
And this is the gifts that I was given that I mentioned at the beginning. I'm ready to open them now. Two of these people, the main two Martian soldiers that get up to all of the hijinks and take over the ship, the ones that are awake when they save them, are two of my favorite characters from Killjoys. They are my two favorite characters from Killjoys. I'm like, hey, it's these two. And their characters in Killjoys are a pair. There are a duo there and somewhat romantically linked. It's a kind of I won't give anything away for those who haven't seen it, but they are a great pair, and they also come in a bit way through the show. It's one of those things that when you finish Killjoys and you sit back, it's actually kind of insane that those two characters weren't introduced way earlier, because those actors and those characters just work so well for that series. And The Expanse is filmed up in Canada, so you get a lot of Canadian actors, and Dr. Strickland, as mentioned, was a villainous piece of shit in Killjoys, but I was just so happy to see these two, and they were very different to how they were in Killjoys. So again, credit to the actors for what they were getting up to, but I felt for them as well, because they just went through this horrific experience. They're captured by these outlaws. They don't know that they're noble. They don't know any of these things that we know, and the crew don't make themselves.
They immediately figure out where they are and who they're with.
And Holden and Amos do not make it the most warm of welcome for them.
No.
Holden's just like, yeah, that's right. I am James Holden. Get over it. And Amos is just being Amos, which, remember when we started the show, was a very cool but abrasive thing to encounter, and they don't know what to make of it, other than it's this big scary guy who's like, it's our ship now.
Dangerous. We know this.
This is the Tachi.
You're James Holden.
All right, easy guys.
This is a stolen Martian ship.
It's our boat now.
They disarm Alex. They grill him, and then the third member of these soldiers was faking being unconscious so he could get up and he in particular really beat the fuck out of Alex. Like
he waited.
I love this little thing that they did in the choreography, which is that guy hit Alex a bunch, just nice and evenly, and then he took a pause. And then he like doubled the amount of hits he was giving Alex. Like he took a pause and went, "Was that enough? No, in fact, I should double down on this worm." Like you could see
like,
that.
Fuck him.
There was like pause where you could tell that the character was like, "Have I beaten this guy up enough? No, I hate him. Punch him even harder and more." I laughed. They try to take over the ship. These soldiers.
Yeah, they attempt a coup, and they fail. But not in a way where it's like, oh, because our crew is so great, of course we're going to stop it. It's just all by chance. Holden walking through, that guy not having found the ammo yet, Bobby walking up.
Oh, and
all just like very reasonable chance.
It's kind of goofy as well, which I appreciate. This episode has a goofiness to it that I really was enamored by.
Don't really have a plan.
They do, but it's about getting it done.
It's like, we want to take over the ship. What are we going to do when we take over the ship? How are we going to contain everybody?
We know that we need to send this out for these people to come here, and Naomi is trying to persuade them otherwise and be very courteous, but it's not working. They don't give a fuck. She's actually trying to convince them to let her friends back on the ship so they don't leave them there to die, because we didn't leave you to die. And you have the classic duo of these soldiers where one of them doesn't give a fuck and one of them gives a fuck.
Yeah. One of them's being reasonable.
And Naomi, as well as Alex and Bobby and Holden, are going to try and play to the sympathy of that one so that that one can play to the sympathy of the other.
Yeah.
It's classic story. Classic storytelling.
They get him on side and then worry about her.
It is beautifully done. What did you think about how Holden became action hero for one scene? We haven't really had a lot of Holden successfully being like a fighting guy who punches shit, yet we know he's jacked.
Yeah. Like, I was referring to him getting to flex, and the exact moment that I was thinking of was when he's still all like bloodied up. Like he's got dried, stained blood all over his face from being like elbowed in the nose.
Yeah.
And he's got his hands either side of like the ladder up to the cockpit.
Oh, yeah.
And we see him through the ladder from Naomi's perspective. And those muscles are popping.
Where's Rachel's automatic Holden pick? Well, he needs to be hornier. They need to let Steven Strait
We
pop off
missed
that
out
shirt a
on
little bit more.
the
Let him wear.
zero G sex.
Still no sex in this season. Wonder if Sci-Fi said, no, that's why you're cancelled, because you didn't have a sex scene in season 3. And the writers threw their hands up in the air and said, no, we were playing it safe like cowards. We're fucking cowards.
Maybe Sci-Fi told them that they weren't allowed to have it, and then the ratings just never recovered.
As someone
and
who's,
that's why they were like, okay, we're just going to let you loose.
Rachel, as someone who's watched a good amount of Sci-Fi shows, that is one of the most unbelievable things I've ever fucking heard in my life. The idea that Sci-Fi executives said, please
sex.
tone down on the horny factor. They gave us Farscape.
Yeah, I know.
That's hilarious. And Killjoys too
Like,
is Sci-Fi, and that show's horny as fuck.
We're going to try something different. We're going to try not being horny.
Bobby gets through to the Martian that has Alex, and this is a great moment for Bobby. I'm very happy that we're getting a lot more depth on her.
Shows the depth of introspection that she's been going through, because we've gotten that sense and we've seen her actions shift. But it's nice to have this cause to have her say things out loud.
I was really concerned that Bobby was now being put as the comedic relief on the show, because pretty much in all of season 3, she has either just been action lady, like punching, jumping, shooting, running, and if not that, she's just been there to be giving zingers and funny stuff. And although I'm not opposed to that, I do find that her comedy beats, even in this episode, are really kind of dorky.
Yeah.
When she has the food for Christian and she's like, oh, good talk. And then she does a big scoop of the stew and shoves it in her mouth and gives a look of like, ooh, because it's spicy or whatever. I kind of rolled my eyes and went, oh, come on, guys. Like, what am I watching right now? Like, it was
for her.
It was corny. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I do find her humor to kind of be a little bit, as we call in Australia, daggy. It's very dag humor, and that can work, but I was worried that they were keeping her in that position of she's either going to be action hero or comedy relief like Worf in TNG, where it's like the comedy comes from that they're so stoic.
Yeah.
And they're doing something silly. But thankfully, they give her so much stuff here. It's not just the disarming, but when she is talking the person down, she is using her experiences from season 2. And I did write in my notes, I don't know if you will agree with this, but the way that Bobby explains her journey in season 2 was far more fascinating to me than what we actually saw in season 2.
Well, yeah, I was like, oh, that's what it was meant to be. Okay.
It's not even that we didn't understand that's not what it was meant to be. We wish we could feel it the way that I do in the speech. Because Frankie Adams is really getting a lot of great moments to show off her acting skills. I was really thrown in a positive way, but I was really thrown by her pleading and her giving these very somber expressions that really reminded me that she's a young woman. Like, she has a real baby face in those scenes, and
soft.
Very soft expression
is coming through.
She's no longer just scowling and looking mean.
She's no longer putting on the mask of a Marine.
Bobby is finding her place, not just within the show, but also the crew itself. I think that now that we're out of the rocky introduction of this character, the writers have really found the angle to tell her story, and I found her to be one of the more compelling aspects of this episode. And gosh darn it, I was rooting for her to connect more with this crew of people. It's kind of a slow burn thing, but we have had a real build-up of a found family on this ship.
Yeah. Yeah, and they've solidified that in various moments throughout this show, especially with Alex just calling them a family all of the time now.
Him being the dad of the group, always wanting to cook food and having to concede when somebody else wants to do it. And Bobby finds that she's buddy-buddy with Christian. Her and Holden have a level of respect for one another. She doesn't have too much going on with Amos right now. They've butted heads, and I don't really think she said a word to Prax thus far. If they have, it's been nothing. But this was the moment of, let's make these two Martians with Alex and Bobby have reasons to talk to one another, reasons to bond, because they should. And I really like the scene too at the end where she's at their gym, because remember, this ship is only for hunks and babes. And if you can have a hunky babe, then that's the best version.
It's for Martian.
It was a warship. It's a soldier's ship. And she's in the
They
gym.
need to be able to train.
It is always interesting when Alex expresses his identity of being a Martian, because it's always ridiculous to me how proud he is to be a Martian.
But he doesn't live by that.
Yeah, because when he's living his life, it doesn't really impact him in any way. But as soon as that identity is challenged, then he embraces it and gets really defensive.
Or proud. Or it sometimes makes him happy. Like in this gym scene, like as we were talking about, he's warming up to Bobby because he sees a version of himself like he wants to be. Like he wishes he could be like this badass soldier who can just get shit done and save the day and just immediately have banter with everyone. But he emulates that. He tries to be that, but that's
not him. That's not him.
What is he then?
More socially incompetent?
The saddest part is the thing that he is, the thing that I would describe him as being, is the thing that he has disowned the most, which is he's a dad. He's the dad of the ship. He treats everyone like a kid. He wants to cook food for them.
He's a pilot.
Yeah, he flies the ship and he's the dad, and that's it. And Naomi
She makes fun of him for having a bit of a gut.
Which was the funniest thing ever. They're trying to convince me that actor isn't, that he's the not hunk on the ship. Please. We all know that guy is a fucking hunk. And
he's just not as jacked as Holden or Amos, because those dudes are ridiculously ripped.
But we have not. But hey, never forget that Holden is surprisingly ripped. We haven't seen Alex pop a shirt off. We haven't seen him pop those overalls off, because that's a fake belly under there. I can tell. It doesn't line up with any other part of his body.
No.
You're trying to lie to me, The Expanse. How dare you?
It does feel a little bit like that, but also people carry weight in different ways.
Bobby's carrying weights in this scene. She's got to work off Naomi's horrible, horrible food. I like that that's a thing of Naomi wants to...
No, like red kibble, which of course is spicy.
That's mentioned a lot.
And Bobby don't like it.
No one does. Not a single. Everyone tries to make excuses for why it's all right, but no one really likes it. The most is you get people being like, "Oh, it's spicy. It's spicy," or "It's belter food. Yep, this is belter food." But no one's really overjoyed by it. Like with Alex's food. With Alex's food, everyone's like, "Fuck yeah, lasagna!" And even when they don't want it and he offers it, they give this look of, Oh, yes, I do want some, actually.
Yeah.
I'm remembering your food.
Like, oh, it's a gesture of goodwill. And Naomi tries to do that, and it doesn't work.
But that's Naomi. She's trying to give gestures of goodwill to ingratiate herself back with the crew.
Yeah, it's just not happening. It's just
Well, it's succeeding in other ways in the episode, like with her and Alex,
the
even though
less direct ways. It really is the less overt and less direct approaches that Naomi's taking that it is being more effective on the crew. And she's really managed to get Alex back on side.
Are you offering to cook?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to.
I know I don't.
No. What I meant was, that's really nice.
I see what they're doing as writers. I see what they're doing with her, where they've put her in the timeout because she was very naughty. But slowly but surely, she's going to warm her way back into them. She's going to warm their hearts and worm her way back in. And I don't care. Like, I got to be honest. I personally still don't like Naomi for what she's been like for a season or two.
But I like that the consequences are there. I like that it's not like Alex is going, oh yeah, all is forgiven, whatever. It's just like, I don't forgive what you did, but I want to move past it because we're family. Like, forgive, not forget seems to be where Alex is at. And everybody else is just like,
on different
paths.
No. Well, Holden
this is a bridge too far. Get it?
Yeah.
Because it's the ladder up to the
bridge, yeah. But do you think by the end... I laughed on the inside. Holden by the end is beginning to forgive her because when the shit hit the fan, she was there. She proved her worth and she is still trying to be a good person.
She's earned that place, but...
The only one who hasn't shifted is Amos. He hasn't even really talked to her again.
Very, very much like Amos.
Mm-hmm.
She has shifted from this box to this box, so that's where she's going to stay.
I will want to question you on this, which is... so the crew have not necessarily forgiven her yet.
No.
But has the show. Because that's what I get. Is the
definitely.
show itself has like played it in this way where it's like, it's there for the dramatic, like, oh, she fucked up the thing. But even though they're putting her in the timeout corner for being a very, very naughty girl, Naomi, very naughty.
I think
you can tell that the show likes her still. They're like, oh, she's all right. You'll like her again.
I think the show always judged her actions as dangerous, but right under the circumstances. Because they've said it a couple of times, like mainly through Naomi directly being like, the belt deserves this. The belt needs this. And I think we're meant to agree with that statement. We're just meant to judge her deception around that.
Of course, the series should take the side of its protagonists. It should understand their points of view. It should challenge it, should wrestle with it, but ultimately still come out on the side of their characters who are still supposed to be heroic, and Naomi's still supposed to be on the heroic side. That is not passing me by, but there is that thing, and this happens so often in shows where a character does something despicable, and it's mainly for the sake of some excellent drama to go ahead, and then you get several episodes of them looking really, really sad, and the music plays and the camera lingers on them, and that's supposed to make me feel like they're a wounded puppy, and I should
mope all you fucking want.
And that's what they're doing with Naomi a lot, is she's kind of moping about, and they're telling me a lot, but look, personally, I'm like Amos. You haven't shifted me yet on it. I'm glad that you're shifting the others in a way, but not me.
It's just like, oh, You still potentially destroy the galaxy.
We have said Amos a couple of times during this, and he's taken a bit of a back seat in the season, it feels. He's been there,
Yeah.
he's done his thing, but he's mainly just had like one or two little check-ins on his character, maybe
We're
some drop
getting-
on his backstory or his
Yeah,
relationship with
each
Prax.
Scene is very much a little bit more of his backstory. Like we've gotten how he died in Baltimore and he wore heels and
Pumps, yes.
And what was a little bit this episode?
Oh, this episode was Prax is really distraught over the footage they have got from Dr. Strickland's research, and he is under the belief that even if May was not that hybrid that they killed, is probably even worse
Yeah.
to go there and find her and to see that they willingly turn children into monsters. And he has this
Yeah.
statement about how
Oh,
unbelievable
we had
it is.
very different upbringings.
Yes,
or
how
childhoods.
unbelievable it is that
That's it.
that adults, that people would truly go out of
How
their
did
way
I-
to
how did I
hurt
forget
and turn children into tortured creatures, into horrifying monsters. And Amos, who's clearly was a child who's
Yes.
gone through that, just remarks, yeah, well, we've lived dramatically different lives. We were raised
Yeah.
very differently. And that's
Our
just said...
current theory is that Amos was the child of a sex worker and was groomed.
I think he was a
for-
child sex worker.
Yeah.
That's what I've gathered from the show.
Yeah.
Is I think he was himself a child who had to be forced into sex work.
Yeah.
And grew up in it and had to be involved. And
Mhm.
it's a horrible thing that they've implied there, but they haven't said it outright. But it's little
No,
things like
It,
this.
it adds up.
this
Like
li-
each little bit is a jigsaw piece.
and what makes
it's
it
slowly making an image, but it's just like we don't know how big the puzzle is.
they have really done a magnificent job of the delicate tones you can play with the reveals of these horrifying things
Yeah.
of his past, because sometimes he has lines of dialogue that are very funny. It's just like, haha, that's amusing.
But it's
And
not
this one,
always black comedy.
and sometimes
it's
it
not
is
always haha trauma.
but it's also not tragedy
not
porn. It's not
No,
just
no.
angsty brooding. We are using
And-
these serious subject matters to make this character more dramatically compelling, because the classic writer's trick of if you give them a fucked up backstory, that means they're a good character. They really ride all of the appropriate things they need for
they make
Amos
him
while
a
still.
whole person.
And with this line, it's almost funny the way it is exchanged, but
Yeah, it's
also
just like, oh, it's a sad fact.
it's insightful as well. And with season 3, Prax and Amos's relationship has changed.
Yes.
It's strengthened, but it goes both ways.
Mm.
What we thought in season 2 was Prax is helping Amos open up and become a warmer, friendlier person, more active, more sociable, getting him evolved. But season 3 says it goes both ways, buddy.
Yeah.
And Prax is becoming more cold, more distant, more detached, more like Amos, in which nothing matters.
Mm.
It's just let's just be logical about these
He's
things, because
lost hope.
he has lost hope and he's shutting down. And when they're on that ship, Prax just grabs this dead body and throws it on the ground and moves on and doesn't even address the fact that that's a person's life. But he would have 3 or 4 episodes ago.
And Amos is, I can't quite tell if Amos is distressed by that action or purely because Prax did it without a care, which wasn't like him not that long ago.
The scene has Amos stop and pause and even flinch at the sight of this dead body first, even before Prax does this act, which I find to be a curious piece of business
Yeah.
because I can understand if he paused and then Prax did that and that freaked him out, but he seemed a little freaked out
he was
before
like,
it even happened.
okay, how are we? Like, it was like, oh, I've got to deal with this now, and then Prax just does it without flinching.
Uh-huh.
And I do wonder if that's also Amos pausing to reflect on, oh, I stopped.
Oh, right.
What does, like, because that's maybe connected to his journey from last season.
I was looking at it too of him being almost guilty
Yeah.
about how
Mm.
Prax has
Like,
started to
what have
react.
we done to this man?
What have I done?
What have we
specifically?
taken away from him?
Oh no, he's becoming like me. But the beginning of the scene where he flinches and stops at seeing this dead body takes that a few extra steps further in
Mhm.
my reading of it, as Amos is almost like he is trying to engage with his emotional state in
Yeah.
regular moments like this, in
Mhm.
which a normal person would stop and be
Mhm.
reacting to a human
Yeah.
that is no longer with us, that's frozen and dead. And that's what normal Amos wouldn't previously,
Mhm.
but he's actively trying to be that way, only to be met by Prax no longer being that way.
Yes.
And it's one brief, like 10-second scene.
Yeah, it's just wonderful to have so much to dig into without it being like the curtains were blue because the sky is blue and space is infinite.
It's less is
like
less
it's
is
not
more.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a less is more approach, which is greatly appreciated. And in this episode that has quite a lot of things going on, this particular scene was the one that stood out to me the most. It made me feel the most. It challenged me. It made me want to think about why they did that and what it means more than any other scene. And
Yeah.
it's just rich. It's a rich moment that they easily could have just not had in there. They could have just easily not put that in there, but them putting it in there is a statement in itself, because when we get the main stuff with Holden, it's not to say that that's bad, but it is expected. It is expected that Holden is going to be challenged and then follow through on his need to be a white knight, his need to be a hero. He no longer wants to be a hero, he rejects it, but every character and everyone, including us, the audience, knows that it is impossible for him not to be a hero. That journey, that exploration is tried and true within this show, and it works beautifully in this episode. But that little aside with Amos, since it is just a little aside with Amos and Prax, it just leaves me haunted in a way more than seeing Holden really come to terms with his mental instability and how he is no longer a moral man. And then by the end of the episode, he falls back into it. And how much is it him doing it instinctually? How much is him doing it because it's genuinely the right thing to do? Or how much is it him doing it because of peer pressure, because other people expect him to do it? All of that stuff is great to think about. And what did you think about it overall? Because Holden has begun to grow on us over the last several episodes.
Yeah. They've finally dirtied him up. And I like this stage of his character evolution more than the Ahab phase that he went through. He realizes that he can't fix everything, but he's going to try and make at least one thing right. He misled Prax, lied about their intentions to save his daughter, and he's trying to make that right. But he can't stay out of it. And Christian and Naomi
have their own reasons for telling him, you just can't keep out of it, can you? Very different attitudes towards the same statement.
I solve problems by talking. I need that open channel to Souther.
But Holden is dead set on staying out of the war. I'm betting he won't let you issue orders to an admiral over his radio.
I've met his mother. I get the impression he won't be able to ride the fence for long. Let's give him a push.
I think Holden might be coming to realize that there's a difference between standing by and doing nothing. I think he can't handle being in the middle of everything and not doing anything. He realized that he can't do everything, and sort of the pendulum swung too far back the other way, and now he's being coaxed.
He, when we first met him, rejected the role of being the leader. He did not want a promotion. He didn't want to be captain. He didn't want all of these things
He was on the
him.
Canterbury to be a nobody.
He wanted to just be a faceless person, just somebody in the crowd, but he can't.
No.
And
he was born for bigger things. We keep on going back to that because it is so important to who he is as a character.
But when it comes to his character and being a good person, it's almost like he has no choice in the matter. And other characters are prodding upon that. They know he cannot help himself. And does that make him a good person?
Holden has definitely gotten more interesting as the show has gone on.
But what do you think? Do you think that Holden is doing the morally right things for legitimately good reasons? And is there such things when we are playing around in what this episode is playing around with?
I was really hoping you would let me sidestep that question.
Well, this is the fun. This is the fun because I think
I don't have an answer. I don't know. I don't exactly know yet.
It's a classic. Do the ends justify the means? If he does do good things, does it matter?
Yes. Like, to an extent it does. But it is not. Intent matters. But outcomes matter too.
Because when the ship is taken hostage and those Martian soldiers have people at gunpoint and they're threatening, Stephen Strait plays Holden in a very specific way in which Holden does want the outcome to be a positive one. He does want things to de-escalate. He does want these things. But also, you can tell he genuinely doesn't care. If it goes bad, then that's fine. As long as we come out on top, that's what matters. Like, if you guys have to die, then so be it, which is a far cry from the James Holden who would stop Amos from shooting Martians because I don't want people's blood on my hands to get justice. And I do wonder with him because the show wonders. The show is playing with it, and I think
it's a question at the heart of his character.
He's a far more complex character and much more of a one I want to watch when he has entered this realm in which he knows what he wants of himself, and yet there's also questions upon that because he is comfortable as the captain now.
Yes.
He has a swagger to him. He has a demeanor. The way he talks to each member of the crew, he has a.
Like,
he's in that mode.
He's at the top, but I think he's much more comfortable now that they are in the sort of routine, almost, of big decisions they vote on. Like, if they're in the shit, he's the one calling the shots and telling everybody what to do. But when it comes to decisions that affect all of them, it's not just up to him. And I think that's part of what it took for him to be more comfortable being the captain, because he didn't want to be in charge of everything. He didn't want to be deciding everybody's future for them or having it dictated to him by the chain of command.
He no longer is dictated by his insecurities. They are still there, but he's no longer held by them. And is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? We see that it has positive outcomes, but we also see that it makes him a colder person. It makes him more ruthless. It makes him less noble. Christian eventually, thanks to the other plot line that was happening on the ship that she thankfully avoided. She never got into the scuffles of it all. She was just elsewhere, chilling out, having a good time. She was actually being worried by the news because they still get the news out their way. She's watching what's happening on Earth and she's distressed by it, but she sees an opportunity, and then she gets the ability to act on that because they have convinced one of these Martian soldiers to have a sit down and a talk.
Yes.
Because he was the more reasonable one.
Yes.
Which is good. And she strolls in like a fucking boss, and he's gobsmacked.
She owns that room.
What kind of ship is this?
So like, boy, we're asking the same thing.
And she has no time for the classic let me catch you up on all of the wonderful exposition that we've had to go through already.
Her frustration is palpable. It's so good, especially because it means that we get extra swearing.
She has a plan, and through just her insistence upon doing it, she gets it in the end, which is just what Christian's been all about.
All about determination.
She's a woman of extreme determination, and she cannot help but keep pulling on the thread and seeing where it takes her.
That anecdote about her at the poker game or whatever it was,
learning the rules.
Yes.
And then changing them so that she can win.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening on Earth, though? Everyone's favorite location. We love Earth in this show because it's...
good old SG, whose initials are also SG. It was like he was named for the job.
It's hilarious that we've seen it written down now, and we've seen it on IMDb, that his name is Sorrento Gillis. But she calls him Esteban all the time.
Yeah.
And I guess that's like maybe a middle name or another name. But it is amusing that he is SG and he's also the SG.
Yeah. I've been thinking that for a couple of episodes because you will often write SG in the notes. And I'm like,
who's that? Oh, right. It's the Secretary and Sorrento Gillis.
Yeah.
It works. But
it works both ways.
What's the Secretary General up to today?
Living in the consequences and being annoyed that Anna tells him to go eat shit.
Well, why does she tell him to go eat shit, Rachel?
Because he fucks up her speech. Well, he doesn't see it that way, and Aaron Wright sure doesn't.
She wrote a magnificent speech, this really eloquent, beautiful speech that would have...
exactly what
she was hired to do.
Yep. And Aaron Wright gets in the Secretary General's ear and gets him to change the end. So she's like, oh, they're like mouthing the words.
That was hilarious that she's mouthing it.
Yeah. This is exactly it. You're gonna nail it.
Because he was calling for peace. He was like calling for all of this wonderful peace. Everyone was cheering and on board.
He veers right and just goes straight into how does Christian put it?
I don't remember
being like a puppet.
Oh, she called him a
for-
fucking bobblehead, I think, at
Oh
one
yeah,
point.
that was great.
And I think
But
Anna said that
being,
he's like, you don't need to be this
using-
guy's puppet.
Speaking for Aaron Wright, or something
yes.
like that.
Because Aaron Wright is basically running the UN by speaking through the mouth
It
of the
was
Secretary General.
Aaron Wright's words that
came out of his mouth.
Yes.
And the speech became a call for peace to saber rattling, a cry of war, a declaration that we need to put them in line and make them submit to our
we will
identity,
overcome
to
this
our glory.
fear by uniting humanity through war, not through peace.
Through conquest, through our might. If they aren't willing to see our glory, then we
And
must give it to them.
The people fucking ate it up.
Oh, not Anna though. It's a classic. Everyone's clapping, having a great time, and then she's the one that's not even standing. She's sitting down and she's horrified. She's the one in the room.
I
that's
really appreciate that
alone.
we get that again when Christian is watching the footage and being like, her.
Oh, yeah.
She's my in. She's my in.
Oh, Anna, if she's there, she must be someone that we can use. The speech, though, you have Aaron Wright having the best time of his life, because beforehand he had a nice little conversation with Anna where she was being all proud and she's got this in the bag and he's just having to take it and be like, oh yeah, well, I can't wait to hear what your speech is, only to then have the speech be revealed that Aaron Wright has taken it over, and when he stands up and claps, and by God, he does such an arrogant clap. He even claps like a prick. Like he's just such a weasel. It's a slow, very deliberate, very performative clap, but it's him being so proud of himself. I love that. And he's looking at Anna and
Just
he's like, yeah,
I fucking nailed it.
Thanks.
Suck it.
Thanks for everything you did, Anna. Thanks for that.
Oh, it's
He's living the greatest life ever right now.
you just want to punch him in the face.
Aaron Wright, every scene of him in this episode is him just winning.
I'm wondering, could this have been avoided?
Of course I am. What kind of person would want something like this?
Mars wanted it. They claimed we fired first over Ganymede, and it was their right. But this is what they've wanted for decades.
He is being played up as so Machiavellian and smug and like just whimsically evil, so that when you end the episode with the potential to topple him, it's all the more satisfying, because in this one he was an extra level of arrogant than he's ever been before. When Anna is, as you say, chewing out the Secretary General and telling him to eat shit and die, basically, oh my God, chef's kiss to this moment, which is Aaron Wright tries to chime in and she's like, you don't talk to me
ever again.
Fuck you. Fuck you. You suck. I hate you, you little bitch. You should crawl into a hole and die.
I love the energy that she had with that, which is just like that pure rage. A bit like that genuine thing of like, no. Also, like, I'm going to put a lid on this because you don't get any more of me.
You brought me back just to fuck me again. That's what the relationship is with Secretary General. I thought underneath all of the bullshit and the ambitions,
there was a good man.
There was a good man. There was a soul to you, but apparently not. And what you've done here is just to hook me back in, just drag me back kicking and screaming to try and ruin me. You're on your own. I'm leaving. She goes, she's phoning up her wife, and she's having this really beautiful, cute little conversation. Tears had lots of exclamations of I love you, and I can't wait for you to be together, and we'll be together. Yeah. But Christian's plan is coming into motion because Christian knows that Anna is a reliable person, that Anna cannot be bent.
Get this information to Anna, she'll be able to use it. So now Christian's sort of got these two prongs happening of trying to get the information to the Agatha King.
Mm-hmm. Who will then get it back to Anna.
Yep. And also, like, I feel like they were still playing around with the idea of sending it to Anna.
more directly, right?
No,
Or
I think
they-
her plan was this will then be sent to the Admiral who could send it to... Maybe I'm wrong, but at the end of the episode, Anna gets it.
Yes.
She gets it somehow, and she goes from, oh, I'm so distraught, I can't believe this is happening, I must leave, to, oh, I've got a new job to do.
Yeah. She picks up the gauntlet.
That actress is very good. I've always enjoyed her, even in roles of hers that I have not enjoyed. She's always been a good performer. I hated her character in Lost, I'll just say it, but she was good as that character, if you know what I'm saying. I'm sure you've had that too, where you loathe the character because of the writing, but the performance is so captivating that it makes you really conflicted at the same time.
That's different than like a good performer performing a bad guy.
Oh, of course. No, her character was supposed to be good and noble in Lost, but the character was just, we don't have enough time to shit talk Lost right now. Although this series has a few actors from Lost now. They're gathering them up by the season.
Is it time for the rating?
What would you give this on a scale of yum being bad and yum yum being good?
Yum yum. Yum yum.
Why?
It was good.
Thank you very much. You could say it was yum yum. I do, in fact, say it was yum yum.
Yum yum.
Let's hope the next episode keeps this up and maybe even brings it higher in quality. So, episode that we are up to is called Triple Point. Now, we have not seen Triple Point. We haven't looked at the thumbnail, don't know the description.
Reload.
Triple Point. So, Triple Point.
I'm
what do you
taking it
think?
as a gun thing.
Sure. Rachel, you can take it whatever way you want. Maybe it's like we're going to do a triple pronged attack to the
No, they're
to
going to
Io.
play pickup basketball.
Sure, why not? It's a basketball thing. No, Triple Point, what do you think is happening in the next episode of The Expanse?
I think we'll get a little bit more of the Nauvoo.
I hope.
I want it. I think we'll get some Agatha King. I think we're going to get some deaths. I think we're going to get some on-screen deaths. I don't know. It's just an inkling.
Of anyone important?
No. I don't think anybody important's going to die. I just think that we're going to get some on... Because we got some dead bodies in this one. So I think I'm just like... I feel like somebody's going to get shot.
So do you have any story predictions for the next episode or for stuff down the road?
I think Ehrenreich is going to try and get Anna killed.
Okay. You would hope so, but he doesn't know that she knows. And he thinks he's won.
Yes. I think that they're going to get to Io, maybe? Like, the ex-Rossi crew is going to make it to Io, I think.
Yeah, I think the next episode is going to be spent getting to Io, and it's going to be an eventual clusterfuck.
They're going to get to Io in the next episode. We'll eventually be right.
I think it's going to be a clusterfuck of the three parties at Io: the Rossi crew, the Agatha King, and of course Mal and his group are going to be there. I would. It would be so wild if
I think Strickland is going to kill one of the kids.
Oh, I was going to say,
directly.
I think the kids are going, whether it's that one kid or they're going to break out hybrid style and go nuts. So because again, the blue goo, you can't play God. It always fucks you. And
it always gets around a countermeasure.
One other thing for the next episode, my prediction of something that I would really like to see be touched upon again is Anderson Dawes. I would love if they at least referenced his existence again. Yeah, I'm not saying I need Jared Harris to
be important. Damn it!
I just want Jared Harris back. Honestly,
selfish.
But I do think we are owed a little bit of OPA action because there's been a lot of talk about them and. For down the road, this is going into my theory that Ehrenreit's undoing will be because Anna fucks him real good.
Yeah.
And this is my
Agreed.
angle on it, because Christian said something very important. This rang alarm bells for me. She said that the reason they can't give it to the Secretary General straight away is he's compromised. We don't know, blah, blah, blah. He's got handlers, his security. But if Anna does it, she could convince him to do the right thing because he's a moral good man, blah, 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 blah. That's why they're giving it to her. And she could also give it to other sources in a way. But I think she is going to give it to the Secretary General in the belief of like, I'm going to do the Anna thing where I'm going to talk to him and show him that Ehrenreit's a bad guy and the Secretary General is going to use Ehrenreit as the scapegoat for his own failures. That's my thing, because I think the thing with Anna is she's going to do almost like a Godfather type story in which the Secretary General where she has the door closed on her and looking at the Secretary General being like, I fucking played all of you. Yeah. I made this work for me real good.
Yeah.
Because I think
like somehow she secures funding indefinitely for her clinic.
Why I say this too is I think it would be hilarious if this guy who's not been a character for nearly 3 seasons now
plays everybody,
manages to outsmart the very smart villain we've had since the beginning, it would crack me up real good. I would get a good belly laugh out of this absolute bobblehead playing them all.
Yeah.
And that is our predictions for things down the line. Make sure to not tell us if we're right or wrong, even if we are so incorrect and you're pulling your hair out going, no, you've misinterpreted this. No, you've misread this in the book. This is explained. Keep it to yourself. Or if you want to discuss it with some other people who have experienced The Expanse, you can head on over to our Patreon and you get to be a part of the group Discord. We have the thread, we have the little channel there for the spoiler discussions for all of you to have a frenzy of talking about all of this stuff and join in on the betting pool of what we will find horny. And when you get on the Patreon, you get these episodes early as stated, but also you get so much other content. So it's so much content on there. So head on over. All of this is in the description of the episode, as well as our social medias, as well as all of the usual podcast hosting sites you can find us on. And if you have not shared the show, you should share it around with your friends.
Share the love.
If there are people who you know that are big fans of The Expanse, perhaps we will tickle their fancy. Or if you know people who are starting their journey on watching the show for the first time and they want a little companion podcast or something like that, then head them over to yumyumpod. And Rachel.
Yes.
We, I think, have moved on from the bits when we end episodes about the certain character, because the show has changed. We have changed.
But
I miss him too.
We didn't forget about Pags.
We didn't forget about Pags from Space Above and Beyond. That's true.
We did. We haven't forgotten Jakar.
That's true.
Why should the Gaunt Belter be allowed to be forgotten?
I think a part of me wants to to move beyond, because the more we focus on him, the more my heart bleeds, because I really liked that. Rachel's giving me the middle finger for saying that, but it's true. My heart bleeds blue blood because I'm really, really, really posh now, but it bleeds because he was such a great mascot for what the show was presenting itself as being. He had the thick accent, he had the tattoos, he had the slick back hair, he was a ginger. Apparently he was quote unquote gaunt. As somebody who's much thinner than that guy, let me tell you, I'm not gaunt. So if that guy's gaunt, give me a fucking break. Give me a fucking break. But look, we can keep referencing the Gaunt Belter, but do you think now that we're, hitting that midway point of the show, that there will be another person like the Gaunt Belter that will take up the baton and run with it? Do you think we're ever going to encounter someone?
No, I think
like
the baton has been dropped.
You don't think we're going to meet a funny little goofy one-off or minor? We did have that really big goofy OPA guy that in season 2, the one that helped Miller.
Him.
At least the Gorn Belter is alive as far as we know. Is there a book about him? We'll never know.
Yeah, we will once we finish the show. We can
You want to
look it
read
up.
the books after we finish the show?
I'm not saying that I want to read it. I just want to, like, I can know if it exists or not.
Rachel, sorry, everyone's saying we've got to read the books after we're done and play the video game too.
Hard pass.
See you then. Well, voila.